Hello, everybody. All right, welcome to the Mikestand. Today is Tuesday, May 18th, the day after St. Patty's Day, of course. We're already over halfway through the month. We're about 2 weeks out from April here. So hopefully everybody's having a good week thus far as we, of course, are in the second day of the week here. Friendly reminder, of course, you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here that we talk about tonight grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the question to the best ability. As we're going to wait here for a quick moment to give people a chance to show up here. Yeah, so hopefully everybody, as I said, hopefully everybody's having a good week this week. I know European fans are having a fun time with the WWE doing a European tour, leading into WrestleMania this year. WrestleMania 41. So, anyways, let's see. All right. So, anyways, yeah. So we went through we went through a lot of anime related news last night. So, as I said, I'm just waiting a few more minutes here, I guess a few more seconds here, before we talk about what's on tap for tonight. La 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 la. All right, so now we're at 2:30, 2:40, 3. Yeah, so I guess I'll talk a little bit about what's on tap for tonight here then. Um, so tonight we're going to go over 3 articles from Bounding into Comics. Um, couple of couple of they're all kind of 3 comics related. Couple of comics related. One's kind of an adaptation of a visual novel. So, of course, former Punisher writer Rick Remender, I guess, has some choice words for the mainstream comic industry. The Japanese visual novel, The House of Fata Morgana, will be getting a live action adaptation. And then also, Tom Brevoort continues to oppose the idea of bringing Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson back together in the main Marvel universe. So we'll be looking at all those. Plus, we'll of course have the wrestling wrap up, trying to get you guys set up for tonight's NXT. Also, get you caught up on some of the latest news in TNA. There's some the injury bug seems to be going around in TNA, and a number of wrestlers from there are currently nursing injuries, with one of course being out, and then we'll of course wrap things up with this day in each history. But with all that being said, let's see, we're at we're coming up on 4.5 minutes here, so I might as well just go ahead and get started then. I'll go ahead and pull up we'll go ahead and pull up the first article we will go over tonight. All right, so as friendly reminder, of course, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage. That'd be appreciated. Also, if anything here grabs your attention, feel free to comment and or ask questions. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. So here we go. The first article of the evening that we're going to go over here. Former Punisher writer Rick Remender takes aim at comic book industry for mistreating talent. Quote, heartless profit-driven corporations do not love you, unquote. Article by Spencer McCauley, published on March 14th, which of course is this past Friday. Oh, let's take a look. Let's take a look at this. So, in addition, in adding his voice to the ongoing cacophony of creators speaking out against the corporate comic book industry's general mistreatment of their talent, former Punisher writer Rick Remender recently offered a reminder to his fellow artists and writers that despite their public-facing rhetoric, corporate comic book publishers such as quote, do not love you, unquote. While primarily known for his Marvel Comics work, his respective bibliography, including such notable reads as Captain America Volume 7, The Punisher Volume 8, Uncanny X-Force Volume 1, and The Avengers Page of Ultron graphic novel, Remender's nearly 30-year career has also seen him pen titles for practically every other publisher in the industry, including IDW's Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 2, Dynamite's classic Battlestar Galactica Volume 1, and DC's The All-New Atom. He's kind of been all over the place, hasn't he? But more so than just such mainstream works, Remender has long held an affinity for independent works. An unsurprising fact, given how he came up through the scene, with SLG Publishing serving as the home of his first ever book, Captain Dingleberry, as co-produced between himself and Harper Jayton, and a subsequent Blackheart Billy, which was co-created with Kieran Dwyer. There's something right there. I guess that's from Blackheart Bully right there, anti-fashion. As such, it only seemed natural when in 2017 the prolific writer moved to establish his own Giant Generator studio, a creator-oriented endeavor whose business model sees Remender, quote, co-own and in parentheses here, and write all of the properties with the artist, unquote, usually with a 50-50 split, while Image Comics handles their output's publishing needs. Since its establishment, Giant Generator has played incubator to a number of new and genuinely good books, with the cream of the crop, in parentheses, at least in this author's opinion, unparentheses, including the Sean Gordon Murphy illustrated Tokyo Ghost, the Bengal drawn Napalm Lullaby, and The Holy Roller. Its story, notably co-written by Fall Out Boy guitarist and noted comic book enthusiast Joe Trollman, and The Lonely Island member Andy Samberg. I'm guessing that might be his depiction of Casey Jones from Teenage Mutant. Yeah, and there's Shredder down there, yes. No, no, it is more like the Holy Roller. All right. In case you guys weren't aware of who I was referring to, Casey Jones, I'm talking about, of course, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle character. Anyways, continuing on here. His studio slash imprint's momentum, showing no sign of slowing down. Remender took to Instagram on March 11th to promote Giant Generator's upcoming slate of releases, which is set to feature the work of noted industry creators Steve Epting, Daniel Cunha, Andre Lima Araujo, Greg Tocchini, and Yannick Paquette. And it was therein ostensibly in light of the recent outrage expressed over the topic by a number of artists. Remender let loose on the corporate comic book industry's treatment of the very people whose work they profit from. And this is probably him yelling, I'm guessing, but I'm not gonna yell the whole thing here. I'll probably try to put some emphasis on it, but still. Creator owned or die, quote unquote, began the Scarlet Avengers Volume 1 scribe with a rallying cry. Quote, comics are better when they are owned by the people who make them. Heartless, profit-driven corporations do not love you. Allowing them to control the blood of your labor is a short-term game that leaves you with nothing in the end, unquote. Quote, it is better to play great music to an intimate audience than to feed baloney to an auditorium, unquote, he added. I am dedicated, quote, I am dedicated to making great comics owned by the people who create them. I will die on this hill, unquote. Yeah, usually when people all caps it, it usually means that they're either trying to say it with strong emphasis or they're yelling. I was trying to say it with strong emphasis there. Turning down the volume as he drew his post to a close, Remender ultimately asserted, quote, Giant Generator Wave 3 is underway exclusively at our wonderful home, the most dedicated publisher to the promise of pure creator-owned comics, Image Comics, unquote. Alrighty there we go with that article. So now we'll get ready to move on to the next one here. They're kind of groovy. Alright, so here we go. Let's see. The next one here. Next article we will look at here. And again, feel free to comment and or ask questions if you guys if anything grabs your attention. I'll try to answer the questions to the best of my ability. And if you haven't yet, if you guys can help out by liking and sharing the stream, see if we can get some more friendly people in here to engage, that'd be appreciated. So with that being said, of course, let's get ready to move on here. Let me see. Let me try one more thing here real quick. All right, so with that, let's get into this next article here. Let me see. Let me at least try one more thing here before we continue on. All right, so here we go again here. All right, so let's see now. All right, so Japanese VN visual novel, in smaller quotes, The House in Fata Morgana, in smaller quote, um, to receive live action adaptation from, quote, a passionate North American film director, unquote, negotiations said to be, quote, moving forward positively, unquote, article by Spencer McCauley, published back on March 14, 2025, this past Friday. So let's get into this. All right, so in continuing the trend of Japanese media receiving Western treatments, um, yeah, um, the house in Fata Morgana, writer Kieka Hanada, has revealed that a live-action adaptation of the popular visual novel is currently in development, courtesy of a, quote, passionate North American film director, unquote. Penned by Hanada, drawn by illustrator Moyotaro, um, and developed into a proper visual novel by independent Japanese studio Novect. The house in Fata Morgana follows the star-crossed romance of two lovers, Giselle and Michelle, or Michael. I guess. Well, yeah, Michelle, I believe, is the French version of it. If this is meant to be in French, then it probably would be Michelle. As they attempt to reunite their souls across a number of historical time periods and spiritual reincarnations. At the center of the sordid tale of heartbreak, physical violence, and supernatural mystery sits the eponymous House Morgana, an eerie mansion which seems to not only transcend time and space, but also possesses a penchant for playing host to endless tragedy and bloodshed. Ouch. That's harsh. Hmm. Currently boasting a Metacritic score of 96, The House in Fata Morgana captured the attention of fiction fans across the board, including apparently a film director who wants to bring the gothic romance to live action. Its development was first revealed to the public on March 13th, following the conclusion of the Steam Visual Novel Fest. Taking to both their official Twitter account and the visual novel's Steam news page, developer Novect beamed to their fans, quote, in brackets, as noted during the Steam Visual Novel Fest. The house in Fata Morgana um, franchise has sold an additional 10,000 copies on the platform. Thank you for the continued support in getting the word out about the magnificent work. We're pleased to announce that a live action adaptation of The House in Fata Morgana is being planned for production in the United States. Unquote. Quote, we're currently seeking an experienced producer, director, and or showrunner, unquote. They added, quote, please let us know if you are interested or have a recommendation, unquote. Closing out the announcement with some clerical information, Novect asked those interested in working on the project to, quote, send queries with credits to the House of Fata Morgana live action contact, project fatamorgana at gmail.com. Please do not send any acting reels or headshots. We are only looking for experienced with credits, parentheses, producers, directors, and showrunners at this time. So yeah, obviously before you even get started with the voice acting and all that, you gotta have your producers and directors in place. Gotta have the showrunners in place to get things going before you even consider doing the voice acting, getting the voice casting together. Hmm. Offering his own statement on the news, Hanada took to his own Twitter account to tell fans, quote, the Visual Novel Fest wrapped with fantastic numbers, likely thanks to being featured on the front page. A huge thank you to everyone, unquote. From there, the writer went on to provide further insight into the aforementioned, quote, important announcement, unquote, informing fans that, quote, for over 2 years, a passionate North American film director who really loves Fata Morgana has been working on a live action adaptation project. Negotiations with multiple TV networks and producers are currently moving forward positively, unquote. Quote, to further strengthen the project's chances of becoming a reality, we are now searching for an experienced and dedicated producer, unquote. He reiterated, quote, if you believe you're the right person for this, please reach out via the email listed on our news page, unquote. At current, the identity of the mysterious North American director remains unknown. Likewise, given the project's early development stage, word remains out on whether the project will be a film or television outing. For PC players interested in diving into the House of Fata Morgana before it blows up in popularity, the visual novel is currently on sale for $16.24 as part of the 2025 Steam Spring Sale. Meanwhile, players on the PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch platforms can pick up the definitive Dream of Revenant edition for its regular price of $40. Oh, there we go with that one. Alrighty then, so let's see. All right, so let's get ready to do the next one here. And before I do that, this article we'll probably do tonight. Alrighty then, so let's see, let's get back to this. Let's get back to these articles here. Let's see, this last one here. All right. So, sometimes people can just be so stubborn, even when the writing's on the wall that it's something that everybody wants, some people are just apparently too stubborn to want to follow through with what fans want, right? Let's see another example of how, the woke mindset, as it were. By evidence to the contrary, they still think they know better than everybody else. All right, so Marvel Comics executive editor defends continued opposition to Spider-Man and Mary Jane's marriage. Quote, you seriously think that if there was an easy way to make sales skyrocket, I wouldn't do it? Unquote. Article by Spencer McCauley, published March 15th, which was this past Saturday. Well, in this case, you're not doing it there, Tommy boy, because basically everybody keeps telling you that they want this, they want it back, and you just keep flipping them the bird. So go figure. The web of discourse surrounding the publisher's ongoing refusal to reunite Spider-Man and Mary Jane continues to grow. And Marvel Comics executive editor Tom Brevoort is standing by his belief that despite fan sentiment, there is no inherent advantage to bringing them back together in the mainstream Earth 616 continuity. Even though it's pretty obvious that people want it just by the success of the Ultimate Spider-Man comic, of course. But no, Brevoort apparently feels he knows better than a lot of fans out there, right? He basically is trying to tell them, what they're supposed to like, basically, right? As previously reported, Brevoort well, I think it's supposed to be his, not this, latest Spider marriage conversation while answering fan questions for the latest issue of his weekly Man with the Hat Substack blog, as published on March 9th. Asked to his thoughts on the quote recurring idea that the success of the new Ultimate Spider-Man, in parentheses, with a married Peter Parker, in unparenthesed, is an indication that the regular 616 Peter's marriage to Mary Jane should be reinstated, and that it is a fault of the editors over there for not recognizing that and thus reaping similar sales success, unquote. The Marvel Comics veteran asserted, quote, yeah, I've been hearing from a couple of yahoos whose idea of a good time is to send us the same form letter about MJ and Paul every single day. But here's the thing. I think the point of view that you're taking, that you're talking about, is simply incorrect. You see, again, he just seems to think he knows better. He just seems, you know, you know. I mean, the writing's on the wall, right? The proof is in the pudding. There, people want to see that back in the main universe. Quote, first off, the difference in sales between Ultimate Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man is relatively slim, unquote, he argued. Quote, it's not like Ultimate is doing twice or three times the business or anything. And secondly, I don't think that the success of Ultimate at the moment is just down to Pete and MJ being married within it. I think it has a lot more to do with the quality of the work that Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto are producing. Yeah, but obviously, if that's the case, if they're writing a good story and it is involving, maybe there is something there. Maybe there is something that's drawing people more to it because of the marriage. Quote, so I get that people who want Pete and MJ back together are, of course, going to point to that series. But the truth is that it doesn't really make a convincing argument to me at all, unquote. The editor concluded, quote, I've been around this particular sort of block too many times over the years to mistake the signals, unquote. Hey Rex, I see you. Hail Mike. Hit that like. Well, thank you, my friend. Thank you for popping in. Yeah. Talking about the big debate over whether or not they should bring Peter and Mary Jane back together in the main canon of the MCU in the comics. There, Bravort seems to be totally against the idea. Don't by the way he talks, I don't I get the impression nothing could convince him to do it. Basically, what I have to unfortunately probably tell Marvel fans here is as long as Bravort is editor at Marvel, is an executive editor, I doubt very seriously if you're going to see Pete and Mary Jane back together in the main canon in the 616. I think he's pretty much just basically making it clear he has no intention whatsoever. Even if the fans basically cry out for it, no matter how the sales fall, no matter what evidence to the contrary, he just doesn't think of it as a good thing to try to bring them back together in the main universe. Apparently, so. Given the hot button nature of this issue, it came as no surprise that in the aftermath of his post publication, Bravort found himself facing a wave of pushback from readers who were fed up with the publisher's continued insistence towards keeping the two apart. With such complaints flooded out across the whole of social media, it was those that were posted to Blue Sky, the editor's platform of choice, that would elicit direct responses from Bravort, beginning with a criticism that, quote, all the information publicly available contradicts much of what he's saying here. And back in my day, editors at least pretended to respect the quote unquote yahoos who cared enough to write in and buy their books, unquote. The, the fact that he's calling his fan base yahoos should tell you something as well. Tell you his whole attitude, his whole thought process towards those who are basically buying the books, right? So I mean, oh yeah, okay. So actually, what I just read was somebody. I thought it was um, Bravort, but I guess it was somebody who wrote into him. I'm guessing. Quote: Let me ask you this, fam. Is Batman cratering? The editor lashed out in turn. Quote, absolute Batman is consistently outselling it, right? Um, is Batman in the toilet? Do they need to bring Martha Wayne back to life in the main series? Seems crazy, right? Unquote. Quote, Martha Wayne is an element of at-bats that's different from the regular book. Unquote. He explained of his argument. Quote, so it's analogous to Pete and MJ in Ultimate Spider-Man. I don't think it's responsible for those sales either. But this is the sort of argument you guys are making. Correlation isn't causality. It should be noted that despite Bravort's insistence, the comparison is completely disingenuous. Um, I guess this is Spencer, the writer of the article, speaking now here. As explained by said fan, quote, Martha being alive wasn't the accepted status quo for 2 decades. Pitched by the original co-creator and used front and center in all the marketing. The Spider-Man marriage, though, it was then and is currently, in brackets, as Ultimate Spider-Man heavily promoted itself on its featuring of a married Peter and MJ. Unbracketed, unparenthesis there. Sadly, rather than admit that his argument was completely off base, Bravort instead dismissed, quote, and now it hasn't been the accepted status quo for 2 decades. Things change, unquote. Yeah, just mind you, folks, that Bravort is one of these people who probably just completely just poops on traditional values and traditional thoughts. You know, he probably considers himself a very progressive individual. Like progress is always a good thing, right? Some progress is not that good. Hmm. Responding to a reader who criticized, quote, Amazing Spider-Man at the moment is only selling because it's Amazing Spider-Man. You give those stories from the last 2 to 3 years any other IP that doesn't have an established reputation, and it won't even get views as fan fiction. The Marvel exec asserted, quote, sorry, but that's nonsense. Okay, so somebody argued that the stories themselves in Amazing that I guess he's writing and or whoever's writing Amazing Spider-Man, the only reason they're even getting read is because of the fact, it's Amazing Spider-Man, and it's not, because I think what the person is saying is that if you were to put that story on another character, it may not go over as well. So, quote, a book sells because people buy it. Buy it because they like it, unquote, he said. Quote, and especially after 16 years, there's no momentum in the world that would keep a book just selling because, unquote. Well, that's not entirely true because, some people will still buy books even if the stories kind of go down, if they like the character, they like a character, you know. The stories may not, stories that are being written now may not be as good as they were maybe, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago or whatever, but people might still buy it anyways just because of the fact they like the character. Now, unless you do something major with the character that they don't like in the case of Peter and Mary Jane, and in the main universe, having them not married, yeah, that can really put a damper on things. Pressed by yet another Spider fan, quote, convenient anyone at Marvel can say a title is doing well, and they are not required to offer any proof. We do have postal statements for the B&D era, and it shows obvious decline. The B&D was the bestseller then Marvel across the board was in the pits, unquote. Bravort defiantly replied, quote, Jack, I'm in business. Part of my job is to sell Marvel Comics, unquote. Quote, you seriously think that there was an easy way to make sales skyrocket? I wouldn't do it. I think that's what he's implying, yeah. Because obviously you do have an element here that fans want to see, which is the marriage of Peter and Mary Jane in the main universe, the main canon. The editor asked, quote, or that I'm lying about information that I have access to, and you certainly do not. At this point, why are we even talking? Unquote. Well, because people, the reason you're talking is one, because people want to see Mary Jane and Peter back together in the main universe. Two, you are ignoring the very fans who are buying your books. And if they're going over to Jonathan Hickman and that other guy, Chichetto's Ultimate Spider-Man, not buying your books, that should tell you something, dude. All in all, whether Ultimate Spider-Man can keep its momentum into the next year and truly bury Amazing Spider-Man in sales, rather than just keeping just ahead of it, ultimately remains to be seen. There we go with that one. So again, Bravort just comes off as kind of an arrogant individual who just seems to think that he knows better than everybody else what they like to read. You know, he's kind of acting. Bravort there is kind of acting asinine. So, anyways, so we're done with the articles. So now we're gonna move on to the wrestling wrap up here. I'm gonna look ahead, of course, tonight. We're gonna look ahead here to tonight's NXT. Kind of Okay, for those of you who, with Booker T and Vic Joseph on commentary on the CW coming from the WWE Performance Center in Orlando, Florida, on tonight's episode of NXT. Chelsea Green will, with Alba Fire and Piper Niven in her corner, will be defending the women's United States title against Sol Ruka, who will have Zari in her corner. In a tag team match that was set up a couple weeks ago, Josh Briggs and Yoshiki Inamura, who recently had a shot at the NXT tag titles, will be taking on another team that's looking for Tank Ledger and Hank Walker, Hank and Tank. Ricky Saints is set to take on Ridge Holland. I believe this will be Ricky's first singles match since signing with NXT. I think it'll be his second match overall, his first singles match. In a mixed six-person tag match, you have the D'Angelo family of Lucas Crucifino, Channing Lorenzo, and Adriana Rizzo taking on the Culling. I guess that's what they're calling themselves now. That's, I guess, Sean Spears' group, the Culling. With Izzy Dane, Brooks Jensen, and Nico Vance. The main event in an NXT Underground match, Eddie Thorpe will be taking on Trick Williams. And also, let me just point out some TNA news, as we're just about done with the wrestling wrap up here. Some TNA news to kind of put out there for everybody. So I guess recently, during Sacrifice, during some of their recent shows, a number of TNA talent, including the Hardys, Lei Ying Lee, and Moose, have all been hit by the injury bug in some form of another. The only Moose seems to be the only one not cleared to wrestle for the immediate future here. But as sometimes happens, talent can get banged up here and there during shows. So I know of a few other promotions where some people are getting banged up and stuff. But with that being said, now the wrestling wrap up's all done. So now, with today being Tuesday, March the 18th, 2025. Let's take a look back at this day in each history. So, first off, on this date back in 2009, 16 years ago today, date in 2009, the 100th issue of Ultimate X-Men for Marvel's Ultimate Universe went on sale on this date back in 2009. Not only was it the 100th episode, but it was also the last, or 100th issue, but it was also the last issue of this series. So the 100th and final issue of Ultimate X-Men went on sale on this date back in 2009 as part of the Ultimate Universe. It was the conclusion of the Ultimatum, the three-part Ultimatum storyline, which was written by Aaron L. Colell, Mark Brooks doing the penciling, Carl C. Story doing the inking, Albert Deschaines doing the lettering, and Edgar Delgado doing the coloring. So there we go with that. And with that being said, let's get in one more piece of niche history. On this date, back in 2010, 15 years ago today, Alex Riley defeats Justin Gabriel for the FCW Florida Heavyweight Champion. At this time, of course, FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, was a developmental This is before NXT had become the developmental brand for the WWE, but NXT was a developmental brand for the WWE. So on this date back in 2010, Alex Riley defeated Justin Gabriel for the FCW Florida Heavyweight Championship. So with that being said, now I thank everybody for being here tonight. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow night with more Niche news, of course. Let me see. We'll be back here on Sunday with Metal joining me as we'll be looking back to comics that went on sale in May of 1940. We'll be focusing in on comics that went on sale. Dell, as part of the Four Color series, we'll be looking at the 5th issue of the Four Color series, Smiling Jack, which is basically a whole book of Smiling Jack reprints from earlier issues of Super Comics and newspaper reprints and all that. So with that, I thank everybody for being here, and I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow. Bye.